Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am John, and if you're here, you're probably working with Java and wondering what the difference is between JDK, JRE and JVM. This video is an explainer video. We will not be writing any code today. Now the three components, JDK, JRE and JVM, work together like a well-oiled machine, but most developers learn about them in fragments, which leaves gaps in understanding and it can trip you up later. Today, we're going to break down exactly what each one does, why they exist separately, and how they fit together to make Java development possible. By the end of this video, you will never mix them up again. Now, the three of them, JDK, JRE, and JVM, one way of looking at it or one way of thinking about it is that once you have JDK, you have all three existing. I will start with the innermost layer, which is where JVM is, and work my way outward toward JDK. So we shall start with JVM, then we go to JRE, then we go to JDK. So JVM comes first. JVM is an abbreviation for the Java Virtual Machine. Now, the Java Virtual Machine provides the runtime environment for Java programs. One way of thinking about it is that it is the heart of the Java language. JVM is responsible for executing Java bytecode on any platform that supports JVM or JRE, making the motto write once, run anywhere to be true. It is included in the JRE and it is not installed separately. It also provides the Java core functions. For instance, I'll mention things to do with memory management, I'll mention garbage collection, I'll mention security, etc., etc. It is virtual. The keyword virtual there symbolizes that it provides an interface which does not depend on the underlying operating system. So one thing to remember about JVM is that it provides the minimum requirements for running a Java application or a Java program. Second thing that we have is the JRE. JRE is an abbreviation for the Java Runtime Environment. So it is a package that provides all libraries plus JVM, which are required to execute a Java application. Think about it this way. It is for users to only consume Java programs and not to develop them. I'll take you back to the Hello World application that we wrote. We can be able to run this particular application or program on any computer that has JRE installed. So that is JRE. One other thing that I might mention about JRE is that it is a subset of the JDK and it is included in the JDK installation. But you could as well install JRE separately. The third part of this conversation is where the JDK comes in. JDK is an abbreviation for the Java Development Kit. So the Java Development Kit is a bundle or a suite of tools for Java. Now, once you have JDK installed on your machine, the computer will know what a .java file is and what to do with it. JDK is important to developers, or for developers specifically, who want to write, compile, and run their Java code. We have three main steps for a developer, which typically you're going to follow. The first step is you're going to write your program, your code, you're going to save it in a file. I'll again mention the example of the Hello World program. So we saved this in a file called helloworld.java, and our program was quite simple. It just had the Hello World message to be printed out. Step 2 is we are going to invoke the Java compiler. That is where we were adding the javac command on the terminal window here. So Java C, and then we had the hello world.java. The Java compiler is responsible for compiling our source code into the bytecode, and we said that when the compiler is done with its work, there is a file with a .class extension that is going to be generated, and this file is said to contain the bytecode. So that was step 2. When we execute this, as long as we don't have any errors, we expect a file is going to be added in this folder, this hello world.class. Step 3 is where we now have the Java application, or the Java application launcher is going to be executing our compiled file. So in this case, that is where we mention JVM. According to the conversation that we had last time, we were simply issuing Java and then the name of the bytecode, but without an extension. So those are the 3 major steps when it comes to JDK. So JDK, plain and simple, is for a developer. Now, JDK and JRE physically exist. These are softwares that you can download and install on your own, on your computer. But JVM is a virtual computer. It does not physically exist. I'll mention an analogy, which is here. Just one way of trying to make this one easier to understand from a layman point of view. Now, JVM is like your stove. This is where the actual cooking happens. So we need different stoves for different homes. For instance, we need gas, we may need electric. So it's also the same conversation. We may have different JVMs for the different operating system, because Windows has its JVM, Mac operating system has its own, and Linux has another. So that is JVM. When we go to the JRE, it is like having a basic and functional kitchen. So you have your stove plus all the essential cookware. That is where we mention the pots, we mention the pans, we mention the basic ingredients. You're going to have your salt, you're going to have your oil. So with this setup, you can absolutely make meals, and also you can be able to feed people, meaning you can run programs. But here is the thing. You cannot create new recipes from scratch because you don't have the recipe books or the measuring tools. Which is where we go to point number 3, or the third wheel in this, which is JDK. JDK is your full professional kitchen. So you have everything from the basic kitchen setup, plus recipe books, precise measuring equipment. We have the specialty tools and everything that you need to experiment and create any new dishes that you wish. So this is what developers need. All the tools to write, compile, and debug new programs. So, when someone now poses the question to you, what is the difference? Just remember, JVM cooks it, JRE serves it, and JDK creates it. So moving on, a question, when do you need each? So it's actually simpler than you might think. If you are just a regular user who wants to run Java applications, maybe you're playing Minecraft. Probably you could be using some business software or running a Java-based tool. You only need the JRE. So it is smaller, it downloads faster, and it gives you everything required to run those programs. There is no extra bloat. There is no extra software tools that you're going to be having. But if you are a developer who is writing Java code, then you definitely need the JDK. But here's the good news. When you install the JDK, you automatically get the JRE too. It's all bundled together, so you don't need to make 2 separate installations. Now, what about when you're deploying your finished application to production? Most of the time, you only need the JRE on that server. So your code is already compiled, you just need rather the runtime environment. However, if your application does something fancy, for instance, generating code on the fly or just compiling user scripts, then you would need the full JDK even in production. The bottom line is this: end users get the JRE, developers get JDK, and production usually just needs JRE. When in doubt as a developer, just get the JDK because it covers all your bases. Now let's move on to another tricky conversation. The golden rule here to follow: your JDK version should be greater than or equal to your JRE version, which should be greater than or equal to your JVM version. But in practice, since they usually come bundled together, you don't need to worry about all this. What you do need to know is this: if you are to compile your code with JDK 11, it will run on the JRE 11 and any newer versions, so JRE 17, JRE 21, whichever. Java is designed to be backward compatible, so newer runtime environments can handle older compiled code. But here is what won't work. You cannot take code compiled with JDK 17 and try to run it on JRE 8. The older runtime does not know how to handle the newer bytecode. So, the practical takeaway on this point is, when you're developing applications, make sure your production JRE version is the same or newer than the JDK version that you used for development. And always check your project requirements. Some frameworks or libraries might specify the minimum Java versions that you need to support. Finally, let me give you the fastest way to figure out what you need. Just ask yourself one simple question: are you writing Java code? If the answer to that question is yes, then you are a developer, meaning you'll need to install the JDK. End of story. You get everything that you need to write, compile, test, and run your programs. Don't overthink it. If the answer to that question is no, you just want to run Java applications that someone else has built, you need to install the JRE. So it is lighter, it is faster to download, and it does exactly what you need. Now, if you're deploying applications, here's your decision tree. For development and testing environments, stick with the JDK because you might need to debug, you might need to recompile, or modify things on the fly. But for production, the JRE is usually perfect. It is more secure, it uses less disk space, and it has everything needed to run your application. And if you're just a regular user who got here because some software told you to install Java, you want the JRE. Don't let anyone convince you that you need the full development kit just to run programs. When in doubt, remember, JDK is for makers, JRE is for users. With that, I would like to conclude this short explainer video. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching till the end. I am going to leave a link to where you're going to find this summarized PDF version of the notes so that you can at least have a copy, go through. Also, remember to subscribe, remember to like, remember to share the video. The next conversation that we're going to have is on decision making within Java. That is where if and switch comes in. So thank you. Till next time.